days of esports, I honestly had no idea, and I did not think it would evolve to what it is today. And I honestly don't think anyone could have predicted that I would get to this stage this quickly. But I mainly pursued esports because it was a pure passion play.
Start, record.
Growing up, I started gaming as early as I could remember. How I got into gaming was through my siblings. Practically all my brothers were gamers. I grew up in a family of 7, and being the youngest one, I mainly pursued the hobbies that my siblings pursued. And you know, my older brother Dinh, he played Neopets, he played with Pokemon cards, and even played Brood War, right? And he was always a very competitive person, and because he was so competitive, it naturally made me competitive as a gamer.
The biggest term of all time. This is the biggest term of all time, dude. Biggest term of all time. Watch this, watch this, watch this.
We moved from Vietnam to the US, and so everything that my siblings and I did, they kind of had a disadvantage, right? Whether moving here when they're 9, learning English, and competing, it was always a challenge for them because they couldn't communicate. And it was also a much harder and higher learning curve for them. And so I think that I had the best of both worlds in the sense that they were really competitive. They always had to work their hardest to make sure that they can compete at the same level. Whereas for me, I grew up in this culture with competitive siblings, and so I think that by nature gave me an advantage and made me also really competitive as a person.
The guys in the crowd are clearly voting for TSM. They tend to be quite a bit louder for these guys.
I started playing League of Legends as the first 100 players to ever play, and it was really easy to be rank 1 at that time, right? Because if you're in a very small circle, a group of people, that means that the competitiveness was less. And so during the time I did play, I was a top player within our region, and also in some cases I was the best player in my role in the world.
TSM! Team Solo Mid finds another win in the LCS.
When I first started playing, I was one of the very first gamers in North America to move into a gaming house, pursue the career full time, played 10 hours a day. And a lot of the players that I played at were only able to play part-time. And the players that did play full-time, they had a serious advantage against other players that didn't play as much. And I think that I wasn't naturally a great gamer, but because of the hard work and the time that I spent, it gave me a huge advantage on everyone else.
TSM was formed because I was on CLG and then I wanted a team for my site. So I was like, yo, Rain Man, join my team. And he was like, oh, I need a computer. I was like, yo, I'll get you a computer.
Starting TSM was a really grueling process, and it really started to pick up steam. And what I really needed to do to take our business to the next level was to create our own platform.
Hey, what's up guys? It's Reginald here, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about the patch nodes.
I didn't have the capital to start and push our business to the next level. I asked my mom for a loan at a really critical stage where I needed to hire a developer, and I had no idea what hiring a developer meant. And when I first brought it up to her, she was really hesitant. At that time, I think she was more hesitant about me dropping out of school and pursuing my passion, more so than giving me that loan. What I had promised her was that if I had failed, if I had lost her money, what I would do is I would go back to school and get really good grades in return for that, versus continually pursuing a dream that wasn't there. Knowing what I know now about life and where she was and what stage she was in her career, that was a lot of money to her. It was 2 months of savings, really, out of an entire year. Actually, probably even more than that. And since then, I paid her back that and multiple times more.
There it is, TSM in Game 5. Looks to be your North American LCS Spring Champions.
We believed in 2 ideas. One, that had we created our own platform, we would be able to partake in 100% of the revenue. For 2, we could create a system where it was easier, so the time it took to create a content would be shortened by half. And luckily enough, that got to the point where it was successful enough for me to support our esports initiatives, where I could run that business but at the same time compete and play. But at the stage where I did start I felt like it was impossible to see its growth trajectory.
Thanks for coming, guys!
TSM! 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 TSM!
I was one of the very first large streamers in League of Legends. I started streaming really early in the days where you couldn't make any money off of streaming. Now there are streamers that are making up to $1 million in a single month. So it's really exciting to see how much each piece of the industry that I've pursued has grown.
Dignitas watches their nexus go down as Team Solo Mid finds another win in the LCS.
The very moment I stopped playing was when I thought that it would naturally be better for the team's competitive success than for me to continue playing. I was in a really tough spot where I was working, 5 to 6 to 7 hours a day, but also playing 8 to 10 hours a day. And any given day, right, I would have to operate with extreme lack of sleep. And at the same time too, it was just really, really hard for me to make roster changing decisions when I was on the same team, because it kind of just created an element where a single player would have absolute control.
I don't want to watch this game. There's no way we can win now. It's already over.
I wanted to operate the team from an arm's length where I could see the whole entire picture. At the same time, I also thought that I could bring a lot more value to the business if I was managing it from behind the scenes versus as a player. And I wasn't giving our players and my team that played at that time the very best that they could have, right? It was unfair to them that I was on the team running the business but the same time competing. And TSM's mission has always been to be the best League of Legends team in the world. And to give my teammates or even myself or the organization disadvantages like that was unfair to everyone. So that's when I decided to just step back and fully focus on, managing the team, growing the company.
They have never missed a final, they have never missed Worlds, and they are once again your North American champions!
From a goal-oriented perspective, I am happy so far with where we're at, but at the same time too, I feel like there's a lot for me to prove out. I honestly think that a lot of the esports people that exist today are here because of pure luck. I wouldn't say that a single esports team owner thought that esports would grow to this scale today. And it's in a very challenging situation right now because you're competing for market share. And a lot of the teams that you see today probably won't exist in 5 to 6 or 7 years. And I want TSM to be generational. I want us to be like the Dallas Cowboys, the Lakers, the Yankees, right? And so I wouldn't call TSM existing today success. It's really going to be about the story in terms of who our fans' children grow up to see and understand and to know.
TSM!
I can confidently say that we're the most chanted team in the world from a brand perspective. And I think that partially the reason why our name is chanted is because we were really early on in esports. We won a lot. And also at the same time, we have polarizing personalities that are likable. And I think it's going to be extremely important for us to consistently do that. To win, which is what our brand is about. To not only just win, but to work really hard, just try our best, right?
Hey guys.
I mean, sometimes I forget, how passionate our fans are. And when I am reminded, it's extremely exciting. At the end of the day, disappointing fans, disappointing ourselves and the organization is probably my biggest worry. And I think that from a fan's perspective, disappointing them is probably one of the biggest letdowns, right? Those fans and those chants feel absolutely amazing after we've won or even when entering the arena, but I quickly forget about that and I drown the sound out and I'm just focused on what we need to do. Again, I didn't start TSM to do these things. I started TSM for fun as a hobby that I loved, and to see it create really positive impact in the world, it has been phenomenal. And seeing how it's even changed the world in which way where people are growing up to want to be competitive gamers, that's really exciting, right? Similar to how we've created a positive impact with TSM to our audience, I've been able to see our impact in terms of Logitech's peripherals, right? When we first started working with Logitech G, they had the G710 Plus, right? And they had these G keys on the left side, and we thought that they weren't really useful for gamers because there was just a bunch of keys. And they took our advice. They just removed those keys and created, even though it meant basically changing the way their hardware was. And that's just one example of us and them being a technology partner where we were able to just advise them or just give them insight that they followed through with. And that's really unusual, right? A lot of people talk about partnership, and marketing efforts where they're saying, hey, they work with us on these products, but they actually don't. We've given them feedback that they've executed and delivered on.
TSM!
My long-term challenge and what would be seen as success is if TSM is around in a decade. So I'm hoping that as I progress in my professional career, I could see a lot of more positive things that impacted the world.
The TSM are going to end it. There's today's way. Here we go. It's the game.
TSM by tooth and nail once again, NALCS champion.
Peace out.